What's up, guys? It's the Four Horsemen Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Josh Romine. You can follow us on Twitter at Four Horsemen Pod. Tonight, I got with me Joshua Van Cleve. How are you, Joshua?
Oh, man. Ready to talk some rankings. Our first rankings of the year.
That's what I'm talking about. I got Brent Walker. Brent, are you there?
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Wait, he's high? Is that what he just said?
There he is. He turned into like that little blue person.
Yeah.
And I was confused. I thought we lost him, but glad to have you, Brent. We also have Alex DeVinny Stoner. How are you, Alex?
Hey, sweetie. How you doing?
Never freaking better. It is the first ranking show, as Joshua had said. We're doing quarterbacks. Last year, the show was a big hit. Hopefully this year will be around the same thing. Last year, we were all together, sitting outside, drinking beers, having a good time. This year, we're in our rooms by ourselves with microphones. Yep. But I did get beer, so that's at least something. But we're just going to talk quarterbacks today. We finally got like our first set of rankings together, so you're excited. Everybody's excited, I can tell.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
So you look at these ranks, and I'm just going to get right into it. The top five are pretty similar all across the board, except for there's two names that kind of stick out. Any of you guys want to venture what either one of those two names are that stick out?
Mariota and Carr.
Yes. So Brent has Marcus Mariota ranked number 5, and Alex has Derek Carr ranked number 3. Which one of those surprises you more, Van Cleve?
I'm gonna say Mariota. I was giving Alex before the show a little bit of a hard time about Carr because he had him all the way up at number 3. But we know how much love he loves Carr. But Mariota at 5 really kind of surprises me because, he showed some flashes last year, and he was one of the down the stretch is one of the better quarterbacks in fantasy last year. But I just don't know if he can be able to beat out like a Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. Even, person I think that could be up there is Jameis Winston. He did add some new talent around to him, though, but they are new, so they have to get accustomed to that system. And they're a team that loves to run the ball still. Their main focus is run the ball. Remember, they brought in DeMarco Murray. They drafted Derrick Henry, so they're still their first thing is to run the ball. I think Marcus Mariota has gotten comfortable in that situation, but I just can't see him being a top 5 fantasy guy this year.
Yeah, I have Mariota ranked 10. Alex, you got him 9. VC, you got him 13th. So we're all kind of similar.
I mean, I'm not going to completely shoot down the idea of Mariota being top 5. The reason being because, to me, the difference between Carr and Mariota right now is that Mariota, a lot of the pieces around him are theoretical. And I think that's the only thing is that if you can see those theoretical pieces as being, he's got Delaney Walker. We already know that. But on the outside, what is he going to have? Is Corey Davis the real deal? Is Eric Decker going to help out? Those kinds of things are what we're going to be looking at. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think that he has the ability to do so. I just am thinking that I think top 5 might be a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, like you said, I have him top 10, so I don't think it's that crazy.
Brent, you care to weigh in on your Mariota thought?
The reason I have him in the top 5 is a lot of what you guys are saying. Like they've added pieces. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. The running game will open up that passing game. They brought in all these passing weapons with the top wide receiver in the draft. They got Eric Decker, who's a solid wide receiver. They bring in Delaney. They have Delaney Walker, and they bring in another tight end that they just drafted also. I just think with Mariota's running ability, and his efficiency as well, I think he's a better version of Jameis Winston. I understand Winston has all these pieces as well, but I just think in Tennessee with that offensive line, Mariota's running ability, he can produce top 5 fantasy numbers this year. And I mean, last year I brought it up a couple podcasts ago, but Mariota was the number 1 fantasy quarterback from weeks 5 to week 12. That's an 8-week stretch. That's half the season that he was the number one fantasy quarterback. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could reach that top 5 status this year because of all those factors.
My one issue, though, is, we started kind of talking about it, is your rank of Carr. Everything that you said about Mariota applies to Carr, and honestly, probably better, except for the running ability. Now, the problem with Mariota is that he is injury prone, so his running ability could be his own downfall as well. So, I mean, I don't know. And obviously, Carr finished the season getting hurt, but that was a broken leg. That's not, that's not soft tissue. So,
I think that was Mariota. He broke his leg too.
Oh, did he break his leg too? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, but hasn't he missed a couple of games here and there though in the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's always real late in the season. Like he always seems to go out for season in like week 14 or 15. But,
yeah. So I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying that where you have Carr is so low behind some players that are very mediocre at best. I think that Carr has the exact same situation minus his running ability.
Yep, and I think I do have Derek Carr way too low. I really do, but he has a lot, like you said, a lot of the same situations. There's quarterbacks I like better than Derek Carr, but I don't know. With Derek Carr, I feel like I have games with him week to week where he might produce just one touchdown and maybe 200 passing yards. I feel like there's more upside with Mariota because of all the other factors, including the running ability. He could get a rushing touchdown. I just don't see that with Derek Carr, but I do think I have him too low. I'd probably boost him up a little further.
You are correct about the issues with Derek Carr because that was one of the things that would happen. He would have a stretch where he'd have 2 or 3 games where he was going over 300, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then he would have kind of a stinker that was like 235 and a touchdown. So that is a concern, but I think that's more of his youth, which the same can be said about Mariota and some of his aspects of the game. So I think both of those guys are going to be for sure top 10.
And I know there's not a big difference with this, but I do have Mariota actually down a little further in 6-point touchdown passing leagues as opposed to 4-point, because in 4-point you usually rank the rushing quarterbacks that tend to get more rushing touchdowns, rushing yards. In those 4-point touchdown passing leagues, I tend to rank the rushing quarterbacks higher a little bit.
And can I say, if you're still playing at a 4-point, get it together.
Exactly.
Get it together. Come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we like to score points in our leagues. So we want the scores to be high. We want to feel good about it. I like 6.2, so I don't feel anything wrong with that. And, the Mariota thing I like. And, Alex, like I said, I don't really mind that you have Derek Carr 3. I feel like you're Blake Bortlesing him this year.
Whoa. Okay. First off, right off.
That's
rough. You know what? I had a feeling that this was going to happen. I had a feeling you were going to be like that. And the fact is that they were winning games. They were winning games. They were winning games because of Derek Carr. They weren't behind by 30 points and coming back. The reason for Bortles to not be as good is not the same as why Derek Carr wouldn't be good. There's no reason for Derek Carr not to continue what he's been doing.
Yeah, I was half joking, but
get your shit out of here. I don't want to ever hear that again.
And there's a lot that goes into this too, as far as Matt Ryan has always been that mediocre quarterback, kind of at the end of the quarterback 1 range, right around that 10 to 12 range, all his career. You know what I mean? He's always been that right around that Stafford, Phillip Rivers. Last year, he blew up and became the number 1 fantasy quarterback. Cam Newton did the same thing. There's a lot of quarterbacks that jump into that elite status based on just 1 season, and I think Derek Carr could do that. I think Mariota could do that. I think Winston could do that. They could jump into that top 5 easily this year.
Yeah, all of us kind of had a similar top 5 outside of those 2 guys we talked about. All of us had Aaron Rodgers, number 1. 3 of us had Andrew Luck, number 2. Brent, you had him number 3. And then Tom Brady came in at either 4, 3. Alex, you had him at 5. So our top 5s are very, very similar. Matt Ryan, like you were talking about, Brent, last year he was getting drafted, later in the draft, one of the last round picks. It wasn't early. This year we have him. 2 of us have him ranked 5th. 2 of us have him ranked 6th. So we're all right there on him. Are you worried at all with them switching offensive coordinators, with it kind of changing over? Is there any concern? Because it doesn't really look like we're factoring in any of that into this ranking.
I think you have to be concerned a little bit. Kyle Shanahan was clicking with that entire offense last year. That was, his 2nd or 3rd season with Atlanta. So, you learn a lot from that offensive system. I don't see a huge regression, but I do see regression. I think he maxed out that season. I don't think he's going to produce those kind of numbers again in back-to-back seasons. Maybe not again for his career, but I do see a little bit of regression coming from Matt Ryan.
Yeah, who do you think could be this year's Matt Ryan then? Somebody that's going to be going in those later rounds.
I mean, I think, like I was saying, I think can get Mariota, Derek Carr.
See, the only thing I'm
going later.
Well, I don't really think those guys are going later. Like, unfortunately, I feel like this year is kind of pushing quarterbacks up a little bit more. I don't think there's really that sleeper. Like, you're waiting till the end to get like Eli Manning or.
I've got one too.
I was gonna say, I think Andy Dalton could.
There's a guy.
Based on their offensive talent that they've brought in, I mean, they have really improved the wide receiver core and the running back core. That offense could click and gel very well this year. And Andy Dalton, who's maybe not even getting drafted, maybe real late in drafts, I mean, he could be a steal real late, maybe as a backup quarterback that could end up being your starter by, week 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston's average ADP is like 109 compared to where Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota are both going before him.
But where did you pull up? Where'd you get those ADPs from?
So I pulled them from Yahoo, NFL, and ESPN. I averaged them out on an average draft position for all these guys.
Yeah. I wonder how accurate their ADPs are right now, because it is really early in the mock season. Like, I feel like Jameis Winston is going to be creeping up draft boards, and I think that he's going to get slightly overdrafted. I don't think there's anything. If you can snag him in the 8th round, you'd be happy. 7th round, would you want to even draft him that high, or do you want to wait longer?
I mean, okay. Here's my thing though. If you're drafting a quarterback that high, like if you're drafting a quarterback before double-digit rounds, you need to make sure you have a guy. You know what I mean? And I think that when you're getting a guy in the 7th or 8th round, you could be mortgaging a little bit too much. Like, and I've drafted players, in those rounds and things like that, and I just don't know if I really love my teams when I do that. So honestly, I don't really love my teams when I get somebody like Aaron Rodgers or Andrew Luck either. So, one player, and this is a little bit of a homer, pick, but Carson Wentz has a lot of new pieces around him too, and I haven't, even as an Eagles fan, I haven't heard a lot of discussion about him. At the beginning of last season, everybody was about him, everybody was freaking out about him, and the things cooled off. I think that he has a chance to be on that, the back end of a quarterback one, maybe even creeping up toward the middle.
Maybe even another person too. I think maybe Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
He's always a forgotten man. He puts up good numbers, and he's just always a forgotten man.
I mean, he put up 4,300 yards last year.
Yeah.
And, this would be his second year with his wide receiving core and, without Calvin Johnson. So him getting into his own and really feeling out that offense and really taking control of it, I can see him creeping up there too. He's one of those guys who's been going way late.
I worry about Stafford, though. I know he's got some pieces around him, too, but I almost feel like they're wanting to run the ball more with Amir Abdullah coming back and seeing what he really has. I know he's kind of a short yardage passer now that Calvin's gone. I mean, we saw that last year. There wasn't too many deep bombs down the field, almost dink and dunk like a Sam Bradford. But that Theo Riddick gets a lot of targets. That the running backs get a lot of targets. So I'm not completely sold on Matthew Stafford's ability to be a quarterback one this year. He's good, but I just don't think fantasy-wise he's going to be great. I think they're going in that direction of running the ball.
They just lost their left tackle, though.
Yep.
That's a concern.
That's true. Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know. For me, everybody's talking about, Detroit's going to try to run the ball. They didn't do jack crap to fortify that. They didn't get anybody in the draft. They didn't go out and grab somebody just as a precaution. That worries me. That is a worrisome thing to me, because that means that not only are, they not going to be able to run the ball most likely, but they're also not going to be able to protect Stafford. And
I don't know what you're talking about. They went out and got Matt Asiata.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. Top notch.
Top notch. You mentioned them wanting to run the ball. I mean, I think that they would only want to try to run the ball to balance that out, to even help and Matthew Stafford to enhance the passing game for it. They do need to run the ball, because otherwise people are going to be not worrying about the running game, and then they'll just
I got into an argument with a friend of mine that's a Detroit fan about the fact that they should have picked up LeGarrette Blount, and it was like right after Blount got signed to the Eagles, and then right after that the Lions go out and get Asiata, and I'm just like, for 1 year, you could have gone out and just grabbed, Blount to get those short yardage touchdowns, get the tough yards. You could kind of bring up Abdullah, you could get Theo Riddick going. And I don't know, they just kind of sat around and didn't do anything. They didn't draft anybody. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. The Lions brought in a couple offensive linemen in the offseason, so they're at least trying to do something to shore it up a little bit. You can't really say they're not doing it. They brought in, T.J. Lang from Green Bay. And not I'm just guys, but
I'm just talking about from the running back.
Okay.
I'm not sold on their running backs. They must be. So we'll see. But I think it does hurt Stafford's stock a little bit, just kind of looking at what they've done in the offseason. They haven't done anything to really bolster that offense anymore. They don't have that true number one wide receiver. They don't have that true number one running back. Honestly, I think that we're still waiting for Eric Ebron to actually be what he was supposed to be. So we're still waiting on that offense to be what we want them to be. And I just don't know what they are going to be.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think anybody's really scared of Detroit. Like when you think of opposing defenses aren't really frightened, but he is one of those guys that can be sneaky good and put up some really big games. Yeah. One other guy, like when I'm looking up at our top 10 rankings, me, Brent, VC, we all got Russell Wilson ranked 7th. Alex, you got him down at 14th.
Same reasoning as last year, probably.
I just don't trust him week in, week out. When he gets hot, he gets hot. When he's cold, he's frigid. And I don't know. I just have never really liked him. I can't buy into him. There are guys like Kirk Cousins that last year I was like, nope, I don't want to have anything to do with him. And then I see him play and I'm like, okay, he's consistent. He's week in, week out. He's great. Russell Wilson just goes kind of back and forth and is very streaky. And I don't like that. His end total can be very high, but his week to week just isn't as good as some other players.
I mean, as an owner of Russell Wilson the last few years, it is frustrating to watch it. And I watch box scores and the stats throughout games and stuff, and I'll see that he has 50 passing yards at halftime.
Yeah.
And it's just so frustrating because you want more than that for your fantasy team, especially where you're drafting Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
As your quarterback one and investing highly in him. And then by the end of the game, he might have 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, or he might have 350 passing yards and 1 touchdown. It's never like a consistent thing with Russell Wilson. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but there is such a weekly upside to him with his legs. Unfortunately, with Russell Wilson, each year since he was drafted, his rushing has actually diminished each season. So I worry that they're maybe not going in the direction of him running as much and more in the direction he might be passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys too that unless he's falling like out of where I thought he was going to go, I probably won't end up with him on my team.
Yeah.
Right.
Which kind of
Let
leads
someone
me
else take him.
exactly. And there's a few guys I feel that way about, but that kind of leads into the question I want to ask you: like, who is one guy when you're looking at our list? You know, top 12 quarterbacks, somebody that's going to end up being drafted every single draft that goes. Who's somebody that you would not want to end up on your team? That is, you want him to end up on somebody else's team, but he's going to get drafted kind of high. Who's your guy that you're kind of avoiding this year?
Probably, well, it's hard to say. Like, I wouldn't say avoiding, but maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's going super high, but I don't know if I'm willing to invest that high of a draft pick in Aaron Rodgers. Not before, like, maybe the 4th, 5th round, probably.
I'm not touching Dak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's another one, too.
I'm not touching Dak. I don't see any reason for him to get I am right now. Maybe it'll end up being just like the Kirk Cousins thing where it's the Cowboys. So I'll be choking on my words if I say that he's good, but I don't think that. I think he almost hit his ceiling last year as a quarterback.
What do you think, Van Cleef? I know you've been a big Dak homer since you got him last year.
Except for he's got a middle of the pack though. I mean,
Yep,
he's got
14th.
He's got him right around the same place that I am.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a big Dak proponent, but that team loves to run the ball, and they have the offensive line to run the ball.
Dak loves to run the ball too.
Yeah,
But he
but
had 6 rushing touchdowns last
I
year?
just feel I think he's got talent. I think he's got talent around him. I think he's going to do good. But when you're looking at when I was making this list, I'm thinking like, well, these players in a standard league fantasy football or fantasy wise, I think that they're going to score more points. I think that, or I may think that they have more talent, or out of necessity they pass more, so that gives them more opportunities. So that's how I kind of ranked him down there a little bit lower. I do think he's going a little bit higher than maybe he should. But people are, there's a lot of Cowboy fans out there, and there's a lot of Dak lovers out there. So I think he's going higher than what he needs to, because I think there's other value quarterbacks that can score you the same amount of points or even higher. I kind of tend to agree with you guys, like Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck and Tom Brady. Those guys are going like in 3rd, 4th round. It's just like I can get other talent there, and it's just. But I mean, that's just me in my personal opinion, that I feel that I can wait on a quarterback and get a better value. I mean, if I can get Jameis Winston in the 11th round versus Aaron Rodgers in the 2nd, I'll take it.
Oh yeah, all day.
Yeah, all day. And but I that's who I would tend to. Somebody else that maybe I would avoid that maybe is going later. I don't know, like Phillip Rivers is one of those guys that I kind of avoid.
You know what? The perfect tandem would be drafting Phillip Rivers and then drafting Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
That would be the
fast start, slow start.
Yep. The perfect tandem. Oh, man.
And
Alex's world just opened up.
Holy shit. I'm drafting every quarterback. Those 2 quarterbacks like the 12th and 13th rounds.
Man. So, and one guy that when I look at these that kind of seems like he fell down a little bit, that's always been up there top 5, top 7 quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. We all kind of have him lower. Van Cleef, you're the highest at 9th. I have him at 11th. Brent has him 12th. Alex got him 13th. Do you guys think that he's going to fall off a little bit this year?
Sorry.
No, go for it, Van Cleef.
I guess just to continue on, I think Roethlisberger has too talented of players around him not to be successful. Uh-huh. That offense is so high power. I mean, with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, you got Martavis Bryant back. I think that's why he elevates him to that level. But then, like, what really makes me worried about him falling off is his injuries.
Oh yeah,
And he's one of those guys who, if he's injured, he's out. Like he doesn't want to play. He doesn't like to play injured.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I completely agree. That's my biggest issue with him. If you could tell me he was going to play 16 games, he would be probably in the top 5. The problem is that I almost know I'm going to be without him for 3 or 4 games. I almost know for fact that 3 or 4 games I'm not going to have him.
And I'll take it a step further. Like, he's only good at home. Like, when he goes on the road, Roethlisberger is a terrible quarterback to start. I've owned him for a couple years now, and he is not a good quarterback to start on the road. Always start him at home. I love the fact that Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, you bring in Juju, and I think that team is a high-powered offense. But, you know, Roethlisberger's injury concerns, and he's only good at home, pushes him down the rankings. I think he would be a great best ball type of quarterback.
Yeah.
You draft him in MFLs a little early, that's great because you're going to get those huge games for half the season.
Right. And I love Antonio Brown. You guys know that. Like, he's one of my favorite players. He's great, so good. But Roethlisberger he's one of the reasons that I felt okay trading Antonio Brown this year. I worry about Roethlisberger. Just like you said, I don't think it's necessarily the fact that he doesn't want to play, that he's a pansy. Like, I think he tries to play through injuries most of the time, but he's getting older, and he's
Talking about retirement.
He's talking about retirement, yeah.
I don't necessarily call him a pansy because he has played injured. What I was getting at is, like, he's now like one of those players who is on that side of, like, with injury, he doesn't want to risk himself even more, like concussions. And, you know, he told him about concussions, like, we're more like older day players or other players will just play through it, and like they don't want to because they don't want to go out. But I think he's trying to be smart about his body, and he's one of those players on the new side of with the science. If you have a little bit of injury, he'll try not to play just because they want to stress it even more.
Yeah.
Now I want to just take it. If Big Ben is listening, I want you to know that Joshua Van Cleve called you out as a pansy, and he thinks that you're garbage. I just want that for the record, so that I've got the an email address if you need to contact him.
Just don't step into any bars with him.
Yeah, no.
Big Ben, he called you. Van Cleve called you Small Ben.
But
soft.
Another one of the reasons why I hated the Steelers, right, Brent?
Yeah, you hate the Steelers for some reason. I don't get it.
But I think he's one of those guys that is a prime candidate for somebody that I think could be good. But I don't think I'll have him on any team unless he falls way, way, way down because he's scary risk. Yeah. So looking at that second half of like the our top 20, 25 players, who do you think is, I don't know, I'm trying to think how to word it. Like, who do you think could kind of just surprise people? Not like Matt Ryan-ish, not going to have like a top 5 season, but somebody that could be like a starter, somebody that you draft as your second QB, a bench player that could kind of step into that role if things aligned correctly.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I think Tyrod Taylor could. With the weapons they brought in. I know Romine might agree with me only on this, but I think with his rushing ability, I think he could sneak in, be a sneaky quarterback 1 this year. He almost was last year.
It's funny, Brent. Actually, that's the player I went to first was Tyrod Taylor. One of those players that you can get as your backup. He's
the Isaiah Crowell of the QBs.
That's right.
Oh God.
I was really disappointed to see Eric Decker not go to Buffalo because I thought that would have really helped Tyrod Taylor out, give him somebody in the end zone that kind of somebody to take off from Sammy Watkins a little bit. I love Tyrod Taylor. I love his talent. I think that he could be great, but
you love his middle of the road talent.
No, he's got talent, man. He's
middle
very
of the road.
Athletic. No, he's got upper. If you're looking at a scale of athleticism, Tyrod Taylor is going to be higher on that scale. Am I wrong about that? You don't think he's athletic?
Okay, he's athletic, yes.
Okay, so I'm not just talking like pure quarterbacking skills, because as far as like overall quarterbacking goes, he's not your prototypical quarterback. But his athleticism, the way that he uses his legs to make plays happen, I love that. And I think if you brought in more passing weapons for him, that could elevate that enough to get me to where I need to be to win that bet. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen, man.
No.
I look at his wide receiving core, and I look at me jinxing players like LaShawn McCoy, and I think this is not going to happen this year. Buffalo is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. Like, they're going to be terrible.
Oh, that I don't think it's going to be that bad, but the first guy that jumped out to me, and I have no idea really why, is maybe Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I'm a Macklin fan. I mean, he's not an amazing wide receiver, but if he can stay healthy, which is a big if, I think that he has the ability to, be, a good player for you if you were to draft him. And I think that it gives, Flacco somebody kind of underneath that can get some of the slant routes and things like that. And he has the athleticism to take those, to get some long touchdowns. So, and then I'm really hoping that Brashard Perriman finally kind of comes around as well. And then they still got Wallace. So I think that if there's somebody that could be sneaky, I think it could be somebody like Joe Flacco. I think that he will be way down the list as far as being drafted. And I think that he has the ability that, that big arm that he's got, that maybe he could do something.
Well, I mean, they added Danny Woodhead, which they're saying they're using him as a lot as in the wide receiver spot. So, I mean, they're trying to add weapons to that team that last year was a fantasy dismal. And so maybe we'll turn it around with Macklin, with Wallace. Showed some flashes last year. I mean, that he is what he was because he's that big play guy who is great for daily if you can hit on him and stuff. And now you have a guy in Macklin who, if he can stay healthy, that could be a good addition to that team.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Carson Palmer? Like last year, we were drafting him higher. We were all excited about Arizona's offense. The pass offense was going to be great. Michael Floyd was going to break out.
No, that was one person that said Michael Floyd was going to break out.
That was maybe just me. But I think we all agreed that they were going to have a good air attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carson Palmer didn't play too bad last year. He was – at times he looked awful, but he ended the year with 4,200 yards passing. That's not just a couple games. You got to throw for yards. Do you think that he can kind of, now that he's down there in the 20s, the late teens, as far as being ranked quarterback wise, do you think that he could be somebody that could end up being a stud again?
Great value getting him way back
Great
there.
value.
Yeah.
I don't know if stud is still in the
Cards.
realm. Yeah, I don't know. But you are right about the value, though. The value of where he's going is way better than it's been in years for him. So you look at what they have on that team. They have good players, and they finally got rid of the anchor that was dragging them down in Michael Floyd. And, so they can finally move forward and maybe, be good again.
I kind of worry about Carson Palmer just a little bit because I wonder if he's reached his top. He's already on his downswing. I don't know if he's going to have that Peyton Manning kind of final year.
I was going to say,
you know what I mean?
Manning. Yeah.
And that's what worries me. I think that's what also worries a lot of the fantasy drafters. That's why he's going so late. And I think they're just worried about that cliff fall there.
Well, but the thing is that I think that even though, the year that Peyton Manning had his terrible year, they were still drafting him as a top 5 quarterback. You're not drafting Carson Palmer as a top 5 quarterback this year. So I think that's a little bit different. You're not drafting him to be your starter. You're drafting him hoping that he ends up your starter.
Yeah, and it's like they got J.J. Nelson, they got John Brown, they still got Larry Fitzgerald. They have a lot of weapons. They have David Johnson, who could arguably be the
Who's
best.
he?
He could be the best wide receiver on a lot of teams. Like,
Yep.
I could see him just, I don't know, having one last hurrah. Like, Arizona is a team that everybody was talking about being a Super Bowl contender, and they kind of have fallen away from that. And other than David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald, kind of underwhelming, fantasy assets. But
Pro Football Focus actually, the top graded wide receiver last year was David Johnson.
yeah,
Top graded wide receiver in the NFL was David
it doesn't
Johnson.
surprise me.
Hey, Roman.
Yeah.
Your next 10 years of first round and second round picks for David Johnson. A decade. I want a decade.
A decade's worth of picks.
A decade's worth of picks.
If I quit fantasy football next year, it'd be worth it.
2 rounds. That would suck.
So looking, we don't really have.
He's thinking about it.
You got me off track. You're talking like 5 years worth. I might consider that. 10. I don't know if I could do that.
No. At the beginning of the offseason, it was 4 number 1 picks. Now it's 2 decades of your first and second rounders each.
20 years.
20 years collective of picks.
Can't do it. God, you got me off train of thought, man. I wanted to ask about the rookie quarterbacks a little bit, because last year we had a little bit more hype coming on it. I think this year we've kind of fallen away from being excited about any of them.
Because they all suck.
Yeah,
they're all terrible.
So if you had to draft one,
Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
Probably.
He's got the best situation.
Across the board, I think everyone agrees with that. I don't know how you can't choose Deshaun Watson over everyone else.
I think I accidentally put Trubisky over something. Hold
I
on.
don't think I ranked
accidentally. It was like you ranked him 23rd, Trubisky 23rd, and Deshaun Watson 29th. Are you changing that right now?
Yeah,
What?
that ain't right. That's not right. That's my bad. My bad, guys. Here's when I was looking at it, I was just making sure that Ryan Tannehill was as far down as I possibly could put him. I should, but then I was like, oh wait, hold on.
Yeah, you got him ranked ahead of Ryan Tannehill right now.
Well, I think I would rather have Trubisky than Ryan Tannehill. I'm saying that right now.
Wow. Would you rather have him than Alex Smith?
Yes.
Sam Bradford?
Yes.
But you're talking about dynasty then, I'm assuming, right?
I always think dynasty.
I would say because like these rankings were
but seriously though, like Trubisky is going to start and personally I think he's going to start the season, because you don't make a move like what they did and not start his ass. I mean,
why?
Be serious.
They paid Mike Glennon like quarterback
because the Bears are terrible.
Hey.
The Bears made a terrible mistake. Both of these things are like they went out and they got this guy when they should not have gotten him. But they have to save face. And the only way to save face that they made this terrible pick that everybody thinks is terrible is putting him out on the field and having him be good. That's the only way that they fix that.
Hey, let's make a bet on it.
Ooh.
I will bet that Mike Glennon starts the year as starter.
I don't like that.
Just say he starts more games this season.
I don't know if I'd take that.
I would.
I think
I don't know.
does.
I could see.
I think Glennon will start more games this season than Trubisky.
See, like the bad thing, I could see Glennon coming out and being like Matt Castle and just being garbage fire, and then pulling him after week 5.
I could see Trubisky coming out and being Brock Osweiler.
It's possible. The only reason, and when we're talking about these other guys, like I hate Tannehill. I hate him. I think he's a terrible quarterback. Sam Bradford is a boring quarterback. Brian Hoyer is only good off the bench. Jared Goff doesn't even know where the sun rises and sets. Alex Smith is the most boring quarterback in the entire world. So when I look at that, and do I think Deshaun Watson has a better opportunity? Yes, but I think that Trubisky is going to be thrown out there, and So I mean, I need to tweak those a little bit, but I like the unknown more than those garbage pieces of crap that I have between the two of those players.
Why do you hate Ryan Tannehill so much? What is it?
Because he's a piece of crap. He sucks.
Good explanation.
He's not like okay. I'm sorry, but like the reason why that Jarvis Landry had an off year, I guess, is because of Ryan Tannehill. Landry could be that guy that consistently has an outrageous amount of yards, an outrageous amount of catches. But Ryan Tannehill is so iffy. He's a quarterback that, you know, we were talking about Russell Wilson. Tannehill is the type of quarterback that will have 50 yards in the end of the first half and end with 150 yards by the end of the game. He is not a quarterback that you ever want to rely on, and he just needs to leave. He needs to leave because there's so much talent in Miami right now, and it's being wasted by a bad quarterback that's sheltered under the fact that he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, and they seem to not really be jumping off that train yet.
No. And I just like, I understand that for a couple of years you're still trying to – after last year, I mean, if everybody is ready to jump off the Bortles bandwagon, why aren't people ready to jump off the Tannehill bandwagon? I don't understand.
Because he's got Gase, the quarterback whisperer.
Oh my gosh, he is not a quarterback whisperer. Look, or at least with not with Tannehill. Tannehill did not get better.
Yeah,
like not like what we were expecting. I think that Tannehill just has a limited capacity, and they need to move on, or they're just going to continue to waste talent on their team.
I mean, he had the highest completion percentage than he had in the past his past years.
Ooh, well, I mean, was he a good quarterback though? Like, was he a legitimately good quarterback?
He was the number one quarterback graded by PFF again when under pressure.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't have a lot of faith in him. Last year he got injured. But
he's just kind of there.
We started to bring up Blake Bortles a little bit, and I kind of wanted to touch on him. I ended up being the highest ranked on Blake Bortles. I think I had him up there, number 18th overall.
Why do you like him so much?
Well, it's not necessarily that I like him so much, but I put him ahead of Eli Manning, Andy Dalton, Carson Palmer, Joe Flacco. I probably would bump him down below Carson Palmer and leave him in between there and Flacco. But I think there is a possibility still. I'm not ready to jump completely off the train. Like, I'm hanging like one hand on there, but I'm off. But I'm still hanging on just a little bit because I like their weapons. I like that they brought in a new featured back, hopefully. They got Allen Robinson, who's a stud. They got Allen Hurns. They got Marquise Lee. They got a lot of good players. And if he really can figure out those mechanics, that they're saying this year that he figured it out in the offseason, but they say that every year that he's working on it, if he could really figure it out, he could be good again. Like, maybe not great, but he could be good.
Yeah.
And if he would limit his turnovers, imagine how many more fantasy points that would be on top of what he already does. So think about, say he has 8 less interceptions and 3 less fumbles. There's 22 points right there in standard scoring leagues, I guess, that are added on top of his fantasy total. That'd put him up in a quarterback one again, I'm sure.
Right, and if
just
Jacksonville
limiting turnovers only.
If Jacksonville really can make that leap defensively, like, maybe he won't be put in the position where he's got to try to sling those balls and win those games. Like, I don't know. Like, I still think that there's a chance. Like, I don't know. I've always hated him, just the way he looks and throws. His throwing motion's terrible. But I was kind of surprised that I was the highest out of the 4 of us on him.
Well, I was so bullish on him last year, and he just let me down. Just let me down.
You were pretty bullish on him.
Yeah, I was.
What'd you have him ranked? Wasn't it like number 3?
Yeah, I think it was. That's why I knew that it was going to draw
Derek Carr.
This year's Derek Carr. Yep.
No. Completely different situations. Completely different situations.
It really is. All right, so that kind of brings us to the bottom of our list, and I don't know. I don't really want to talk about any of those guys anymore. What I want to talk about is how much your guys' strategy changes when you go to draft in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex where you can play a quarterback in the flex position. How much more does that amplify the quarterback position for you?
I think you have to get your top quarterback somewhere in your top 4 or 5 rounds. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
I completely disagree.
I don't think you can wait that far in the draft to get, because I mean you're going to have to deal with bye weeks. You're going to have to get, you have to worry about more when you go switch over to a 2-quarterback league. I mean, you can wait. You still can. There's still value later on, but I think if you want to have an advantage over some of the other league mates, you have to get one of those top quarterbacks within the top 4 or 5 rounds.
I honestly, I just feel that you don't need those guys because yes, they are great, but if I can load up on my running backs and my wide receivers, wait until, let's say, I mean, in a 2-quarterback league, quarterbacks are naturally going to rise up a little bit. So let's say you get, into the rounds 6, 7, and 8, and you can grab guys like Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, and even maybe later like a Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers. I like that way more. Matthew Stafford. I like that way more than having to use one of my top picks to get somebody like Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, who have actually proven to be bust candidates before. So that's concerning to me to put forth that much into a quarterback when I have just as good of a value or just good players that are just as good week to week, not maybe the overall totals, but maybe only a few points behind each week. I'd rather go after those guys and then load up on my running backs and wide receivers still at the front end of the draft.
Van Cleve, you have feelings on this subject?
As far as the 2-quarterback leagues, it's kind of torn because I actually see both sides of the case. Because grabbing a Matthew Stafford later on and Eli Manning, those guys that are serviceable quarterbacks, they can put up numbers for you. You don't have the high-powered, Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady and Drew Brees types of offenses that you have, but I still think that they can still put up enough numbers to get you by, because if those guys, other people are picking up running backs or those guys are picking up quarterbacks when you could probably pick up a number 2, number 3 running back or wide receiver, who could put up points for you where other people will have to wait later and, to get a possible wide receiver 4. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking through it. The quarterbacks, there's so few of them, but there's also so much of them because they all can put up about the same points really for you.
And honestly, don't they usually, like in 2-quarterback leagues, doesn't a player like Aaron Rodgers sometimes creep up into the first round?
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
So I mean, think about that. Like, if you go after an Aaron Rodgers in the first round, that means at best you're getting the swing back. Let's say, the swing back, and you can grab somebody. But then if you're going to grab somebody like that, how long until you wait to grab your next quarterback? If you're focusing on your quarterback, I mean, do you wait longer and get somebody like a Dak Prescott or something like that, or are you going full in and grabbing 2 of the top guys?
Right.
I'm not trying to get 2 of the top guys. I'm just saying in the top 4 or 5 rounds, I need 1 stud quarterback.
Okay.
And define stud, like
I want at least a top 8 to 10 quarterback. And I know you can wait longer, but I think because it's a 2-quarterback system, it drives those quarterbacks up near the top of the draft a little further. So I think you have to overdraft slightly on some of those guys. Because like Aaron Rodgers is going to go in the first round. Andrew Luck might go in the second. Tom Brady could go in the second. Drew Brees in the third. A lot of those guys are going to go up higher because of the necessity for the quarterback position, I feel. But also, like I said, I rank Mariota top 5. So I could wait to get Mariota later on in the draft. Just depends on your ranks, I guess. But
Right. Well, and what I was going to say is I'm doing a mock fantasy draft for Kevin O'Brien with Fantasy Football Engineering right now, and it's a 2-quarterback dynasty league. And I'm just looking at the ADPs right now of where players have gone, and Andrew Luck went with the 4th overall pick. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers went with the 9th overall pick. Jameis Winston went with the 10th overall pick. And then you come back, 3rd pick of the 2nd round, Marcus Mariota.
Jesus,
Fifth pick of the 2nd round, Russell Wilson. And I know it's a mock draft, so I'm sure it's driven up, but like it just gives a little perspective. That's where players' heads are at. And that's
so if that's the case, if they're all taking quarterbacks that early, you should load up on every other position so that you can have a statistical advantage at running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then wait. It just depends on how the draft goes a lot.
That's
you got to watch that.
That's
true. I'm drafting from the 12 spot. It's a 12-team league, and I took LaShawn McCoy and Melvin Gordon with my first 2 picks. So I'm a little bit worried coming back on my 3-4 turn what's going to be there, but there's going to be good skill position there because I know a lot of these quarterbacks are going to go in between there too. It seems crazy that the value gets driven up that much, and I would tend to side on Alex's point. In a dynasty league,
Alex Smith and Sam Bradford.
See, you can't do that. And it really depends on how the rest of the 2nd and 3rd round go. If all those guys, if guys are going that early, I'm going to have to draft somebody younger because you look at your dynasty, and you don't want to start off your dynasty team in a 2-quarterback league with no quarterbacks. And you don't really want to end up, even if Tom Brady or Drew Brees, as your only guys. I worry. You're putting a lot of bank into getting one of those rookies or finding somebody down the road. And maybe what you could do is just wait and get a Phillip Rivers or one of those guys a little bit later and draft some of those rookies and hope that they work out. But it's scary how quickly guys go like that. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. But on that note, if you guys don't have anything to add to this quarterback discussion, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We'll probably do running backs next week.
Sounds good
to me. You want to do running backs? I like that idea. The ranking.
Ron Burgundy.
We'll run with it.
Yes. But we appreciate you guys stopping out and listening. Like I said before, follow us on Twitter at 4HorsemenPod. Send us email at 4horsemenpod@gmail.com. Still got it on there. Still checking it relentlessly. And someday it's going to break through. I just got some koozies with the 4 Horsemen Pod on it. Oh, it's exciting. Swag is going to be coming. I want to hand some stuff out. So we appreciate you guys listening. Peace.